I've got 3 NFL win total over-unders for you to lock in right now. I dove into a bunch of different teams and their win total over-under, and I found 3 of my absolute favorite that I have already locked in that I recommend you lock in as well. This is Matt Modi with Jedi Modi Sports Betting. If you're not already, would appreciate it a ton if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then also if you could like this specific video and comment as well. I also have a membership option on my YouTube channel as well. So if you're watching this and you're interested in becoming a Jedi in training, check that out. It's the very first link in both the description of the video as well as the pinned comment. But that's enough of that. Let's get into these NFL over-under win totals bets. The first one, my absolute favorite, is the Cowboys win total to go over 9.5. That is at -154 odds at FanDuel. So as you can tell, I am an Eagles fan, so this does pain me to say as an Eagles fan, but unfortunately, this is a good play. So taking out the year 2020 when Dak got hurt and missed most of the year, the Cowboys, since Dak has become their quarterback, have won 10-plus games 4 times and have gone under twice. Now, the 2 times they went under, they went 9-7 and 8-8. So they've never had a losing record with Dak as their quarterback. And if you look at the last 2 years, they've won 12 games each. Now, to get the negative part out first, I admittedly don't love the offensive coordinator change with Kellen Moore going out and Schottenheimer coming in with Mike McCarthy calling plays. But my guess is that they're going to be fine in the regular season, and that's going to come to bite them in the playoffs when the Cowboys choke like they always do. So I think they're going to be fine offensively in the regular season, still going to win a ton of games. Last year, according to DVOA, looking at Football Outsiders, they had the 2nd best defense in the NFL, and I see no reason why they won't again be an elite defense. Obviously, the precursor to all this is you got to take out injuries. Injuries can impact literally every team, so there's no analysis you can make on it. Assuming health, the Cowboys should once again be an elite defense. They did keep their defensive coordinator from last year, Dan Quinn, and if anything, I think their talent probably got better. I liked both their first-round pick as the defensive tackle Smith out of Michigan, because he's a good run stuffer, and their biggest weakness on defense last year was stopping the run. Another big part of their weaknesses last year, specifically defensively, was the cornerback 2 spot outside of Trayvon Diggs, and they added Stephon Gilmore. Yes, he's a little bit older, but he's not required, not looking to be their number 1 cornerback. I think he's a great option to be their number 2. Obviously, they have the elite talent, the elite pass rusher in Micah Parsons, which is what you need to be a top of the league defense. So I see no reason why. And then just looking at some of their positional rankings, I was looking at PFF. PFF gives them the 6th best offensive line, the 6th best wide receiver core. And I'd like to just pause a little bit and mention the fact that I loved for them, not as an Eagles fan, that they added Brandon Cooks. Their weakness on offense was the wide receiver 2 spot outside of CeeDee Lamb. So now they have Brandon Cooks and they have Michael Gallup as another year healthier, removed from that ACL injury he suffered at the end of the previous season. So they should be set at wide receiver. They have the 8th best defensive line and the 6th best secondary. Now, looking at their strength of schedule, they're middle of the pack in terms of strength of schedule. Obviously, the 2 hardest games, just looking at strength of schedule, are against the Eagles, but they actually match up pretty well against the Eagles. They've swept them a couple times. Last year, they went 1-1 when both starting quarterbacks missed the game that the other team won. So I'm not necessarily worried that they're going to get swept by the Eagles, and that's their toughest test in terms of their regular season. So I think outside of the Eagles, they got 4 wins against Washington and against the Giants. I'm not high on either of those teams. So I do really like the Cowboys, unfortunately, to win 10-plus games this year as my first one. Next up, my next play, and this one is definitely my spiciest take of the year. I have the Bills to go under 10.5 wins. This is at plus 130 odds at DraftKings. So the team that I'm lowest on compared to expectations, definitely the Bills. If you want to sprinkle some on them to miss the playoffs at plus 200, I wouldn't hate that either. And I will be honest, I've never been a huge fan of Josh Allen. Obviously, he's proven me wrong and become a very, very, very good elite quarterback. Coming into the draft, I was not a Josh Allen guy. I have a hard time trusting quarterbacks that are wildly inaccurate in college, which he was. Now, he's put it together. He's an incredibly talented quarterback. I still don't quite trust him to make the throws when it counts consistently. Now, he'll have games like he had against the Chiefs in the playoffs 2 years ago, where he can't miss. Everything he throws is perfect. But then last year, obviously after the elbow injury, you have to take that into account. But he had a weird year to end the season. And now obviously everybody remembers them getting smoked in the playoffs by the Bengals. And they had some weird stuff going on with Stefon Diggs, both in that game that's crept up already, and the season hasn't even started yet. There's some weirdness surrounding Stefon Diggs, and I never love that when the vibes are off literally before training camp has even started. Now, obviously, they've been great for 3 years now, but they're finally starting to lose just a little bit of that talent as well as get a little bit older. So now looking into some of the actual analysis, they have the 4th hardest schedule in the NFL according to Sharp Football Analysis, which takes into account the 2023 projected win totals. So not based off of last year's records, but instead looking at projected records this year, which is a much easier way, in my opinion, much better way to calculate strength of schedule. And I personally think they have the hardest division in football. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the same MVP quarterback that he was for 2 straight years in Green Bay outside of last year, but he is obviously a step up from what they had last year. And the Jets have an incredible defense, incredible skill positions. I think that they're going to be a very, very good team, possible Super Bowl contender. I feel the same way about the Dolphins. I think they did a lot of good things in the offseason to shore up their defense. And if Tua stays healthy, this offense is going to be elite. Now, I don't necessarily know how much I buy Tua in the playoffs. I think he does have a little bit of a weaker arm that might be tough to play in January and February. But in terms of the regular season, if he's healthy, this team is going to rack up wins. Now, the Bills had pretty much owned the division the 3 straight years in which they had won the division. Now it's going to be a little bit tougher with these 2 teams. And then looking at the Patriots, I'm not necessarily saying the Patriots are going to be any good, but I will say that their offensive staff, having Matt Patricia and Joe Judge last year, there's no chance that team was doing anything. Maybe they have the possibility of doing something this year with those 2 knuckleheads gone. Defensively for the Bills, once they lost Von Miller in last year around Thanksgiving, they never recovered, and he's not supposed to start the year healthy. He's supposed to maybe go on PUP or miss at least the first couple weeks of the season. Also in the offseason, they lost one of their stud linebackers, Tremaine Edmonds. Now, obviously, they still have Matt Milano, but he is an injury risk, and if he goes down, then they are an absolute disaster at linebacker, and that position is hugely important for a Sean McDermott defense. So my guess is that the Bills struggle out of the gate, especially on defense, and maybe offensively, as whatever's going on with Stefon Diggs, maybe that takes a couple weeks to work out. Maybe it doesn't, and I'm wrong, but I think that for plus 130 odds, there is really good value on the Bills under 10.5 wins as my second pick. Last up, my third pick for this video, the team that is my projection to be the worst team in the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals, to go under 4.5 wins. You can get this at minus 105 odds at Caesars. Now, me picking the Cardinals to be the worst team in the NFL isn't exactly a hot take. They are the betting favorite to have the worst record in the NFL, but their roster is terrible. With no Kyler, they literally have nothing going for them. And last year, in which Kyler played up until the holidays, they still only won 4 games. Last year, they had the 30th ranked offense, the 24th ranked defense, the 20th ranked special teams. They're bad in all 3 phases. Looking at this year, Kyler is projected to miss some time, obviously, if not the entire year. They lost Hopkins on offense, and they lost a lot of good players on defense. And they have a difficult schedule. There's literally nothing positive about the Cardinals team in the year 2023. Also, they're not really even going to be trying to win. They have their own first-round pick next year, and they have the Texans' first-round pick next year. They traded back in the draft to acquire more draft capital next year because they know that's going to be a while before they're any good. I also think that Jonathan Gannon is going to be an absolute horrible head coach. I have no idea why they hired him. He's really not made a good look for himself since he's been hired. A lot of lying to the media, ducking the media around the draft, just a lot of weirdness with Jonathan Gannon. He's awkward. He's a bad coach. I think that they're going to be terrible. Now, contenders to be the worst team in the NFL, I would say the top other 2 likely teams are the Texans and the Colts. But those teams are at least going to be trying to win and establish a winning culture with a rookie quarterback. The Texans specifically have no incentive to be bad because they don't even have their first-round pick next year. And looking at the Colts, new head coach in Shane Steichen, they got a new quarterback in Anthony Richardson. I think that they're going to be at least attempting to be good, which the Cardinals will not. And 4.5 wins every year, there's a team that wins under this amount. I think that there's no better bet than for that to be the Cardinals this year. as my third and final pick for this video. So if you are riding with me on any of these three, comment and let me know. Other than that, remember to like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, check out the membership options if you're interested. Thanks for watching and have a good one.